And I'll offer these words by Sarah Eileen Lawal. Spirit of life and love, in the silence, in the stillness, we hear the call of our own heart, its tender dreams, its sorrows, and its triumphs. In the silence, in the stillness, we hear whispers of days gone by, of dreams still becoming, the promise of the future we celebrate together, our individual journeys and dreams, and our collective ones, knowing the journey is so much richer with others to share it. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. And now you're invited to sing hymn 123, Spirit of Life, and the choir again will lead us in that. I've been thinking, and I wonder how many here feel that you have a pretty good practice of listening to your inner guidance, to listening to your own heart. Ram Dass sang earlier this morning, listening to your own heart song. So whether you raised your hand or not, I invite you to think about this. How well do you listen to yourself? I found that listening deeply is a cultivated practice. I can remember when I first became interested in yoga, I found a class that I liked to attend, and the physicality of the postures were really engaging to me. Even if I couldn't do the postures exactly as they were supposed to be done, I enjoyed moving my body. I enjoyed being in that space. It was the end of the session that was initially much, much harder for me. It was when I was on the floor, prone, trying to be still, trying to let go, to quiet that endless chatter in my head. It was good advice, but boy, I had a hard time doing that, to just be still and sink into whatever that stillness had to offer me. I did persist, and over time I came to savor the opportunity to sink into a space of deep quiet, a deep state of relaxation, and to let myself be open to listening to whatever that stillness had to offer me. Most people I know are really busy. Our days are filled with all those basic things that we need to feed, clothe, and shelter ourselves, but in between all those moments, there's lots of ways that we fill that time. Could be watching TV, being on the computer, sending texts, emails, scrolling through devices. And all this busyness leaves little time, little room for simply being. Being still enough to listen to our bodies, being still enough to listen to that still small voice within that wants us to know what is really important to both body and soul. Spirit is calling. Can you hear it? Intuition exists within each of us. Can you access it? You know, with all the questions that abound these days around artificial intelligence, altered images, manipulated videos, and far too often endless deviation from actual facts, not knowing who or what to trust, I thought it would be useful to explore the idea of intuition, of listening to our own inner wisdom. And I suspect that many of you have stories that you could tell of your own times of listening deeply, of when your own sixth sense was activated, times when you just knew something that maybe didn't resonate with your rational mind, but you knew deep inside something that was resonant for you. You know, and I'm somebody who's not particularly sensitive to some of those subtle vibrations that seem to swirl around. And I know some people who do have a really finely developed sixth sense. I have my moments, but generally I find that I'm more down to earth in this regard. Sometimes I have to really practice to access my intuition, and then to take it another step further and to trust it, to trust what that inner voice is telling me. And I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my late 30s. And this came as quite a shock because there wasn't a history of breast cancer in my family. You know, I paid attention, I thought, and I lived a pretty healthy lifestyle. In seeking treatment, I met with various specialists, and I did have a lumpectomy to remove the tumor, but I ultimately chose to take a less conventional approach, and I incorporated diet, supplements, and I spent a lot of time exploring my inner landscape, exploring my thoughts and my feelings. So even though I was taking time to try to listen to inner guidance, I was really, really surprised to hear a voice one day speak clearly to me out of nowhere. This voice was there. It was like I looked around, and this kind of thing didn't happen to me. I didn't hear voices. I didn't have that kind of inner sense that spoke to me that way. But clear as a bell, I heard a voice say, "You are already healed." And I looked around. I was trying to find who said this, but I was alone. Yet I knew that I heard that voice with absolute confidence state that I was already healed. I still don't know exactly what this was. You know, perhaps it was my subconscious telling me what I really wanted to hear. Or perhaps it was a deeper wisdom rising up, telling me what was true as a way to ease my anxiety. Turned out the voice was right. 30 years have passed and no further indications of this disease. Now, this story has a kind of woo-woo-ness to it, but it was a significant experience, and it provided me comfort during a very scary time in my life. I ultimately chalked this up to inner wisdom, letting me know that everything was going to be okay. Listening deeply can show up in so many ways. Paying attention to those squirmy feelings that we have, listening to what they have to say rather than brushing them off. Our bodies hold so much wisdom. The age-old trope encouraging us to listen to our gut is really spot on. I remember another time when I was in a liminal space. I was leaving one situation and trying to figure out what direction to head. I remember thinking about two very different options that were before me. One looked really good on paper. It was safe, it made practical sense, it made economic sense. Yet when I thought about heading in that direction, I could feel my body tense up, I could feel my breath becoming shallow. When I thought about the second option, the less practical one, I felt much lighter. I breathed more fully, and I wasn't sure what way to go, but I ultimately went on the less traveled path when I came to that fork in the road, and I haven't looked back since. It felt like it was the right direction to go. So a question, what does your body have to tell you? Are you listening to it? Do you trust what you hear? And discernment can be a really curious thing too, sometimes wondering, what is this voice? Where is it coming from? But again, coming back again and again to how does what you're hearing line up with your ultimate sense of purpose, the things you value? Within this context, we have our 8 principles. We have the values that are centered in love. To me, that's a real indicator. Are the things that I'm feeling centered around those things that I say I value and I'm trying to live in my life? Intuition can arise in many, many ways. During a challenging period in my life, I sought out a therapist I felt I could trust. Talk therapy offered some degree of help, but I found that I kept answering my own questions in a very familiar fashion. I had enough insight, I knew the language to identify issues that I felt were significant, but using only my rational thought process was not enough. It only took me so far. The therapist I was working with suggested we try a technique called sand tray therapy. And the way this process works is to move out of the rational part of the brain and work to access the intuitive. So the room that we worked in for this process was lined with shelves. Every wall had many, many shelves. And the shelves held hundreds and hundreds of objects. There were human figures of all ages, shapes, and colors. There were figurines of animals, countless kinds of household objects, all different kinds of figurines, things found in nature. There were objects there that represented pretty much anything that one could think of. In the center of the room, there were 3 separate trays filled with different kinds of sand, different colors, different textures. So to begin this process, I was given a basket, and I was invited to quiet my rational thought process as much as possible and to trust myself as I walked around the room and see which of those objects spoke to me. So I went around, I tried to really quiet the questions, why am I picking this up? And just take the things that spoke to me. I filled a basket, I went to one of the sand trays, and I leaned into really trusting this process. I tried to not overthink what I was doing, and I really began to play. I arranged the things that I had collected in the tray of sand in a variety of ways. The therapist would ask questions about what story these various arrangements told. And I was really impressed with what arose. I discovered insights that my rational brain was not able to access with words alone. Trusting that a deeper wisdom lived inside, I was able to unravel some knots that had been pretty tightly wound for some time. Inner wisdom, we all have it. This is how Spirit calls to us. We get gentle nudges or dramatic and unexpected events. All of those can be catalysts to pay deeper attention to what's going on within us beneath all that we cannot see. Whether the questions that are present for you are simple questions or potentially life-altering, the invitation is there for you to let yourself be open to what arises when you become quiet enough to listen. Give yourself a chance to clear your channels of receptivity. Allow yourself to increase your capacity to be still enough to listen to that wisdom within, to the love that is waiting to guide you home. So, what we're going to do now, there's an invitation for ritual. And I think ritual very much has its place. There are times that not just listening to words does things to deepen our experience. And we all have different ways that we take information in. So in a few moments, I'm going to invite you to settle in for a short meditation, and then we have a ritual to follow. So right now, you're invited to make yourself as comfortable as you can. You can close your eyes if you like, keep them open, whatever feels right. This meditation was created by Nancy Reed McGee, and I tweaked it a little bit for these purposes. So sit and rest for a minute. Take several breaths in and out again. Your breath, calling your attention to this space, to here and now, calling your attention to your own heart. Attention. Pay attention. Pay attention to where you are right now. Pay attention to all that you are. Listen deeply to this wisdom that is unique to you, for you are unique. You are made of cells and hormones, stardust and wonder. You are a mix of thoughts, emotions, values, and visions. You are the inheritors of your parents' and ancestors' dreaming. You are a part of this exquisitely marvelous and messy human race. You are. You exist. You are breathing. You are still. You are connected. You are present. You have a holy spark inside you that holds the deepest of wisdom, wisdom that knows exactly what you need right now. You are here. You are paying attention. So let yourself just sit in that space a little bit. And what we're going to do in a few moments is there'll be some kind of relaxing music playing, and you'll be invited to come forward. And I know this might press the comfort levels of some people, and other people are going to dive right into this. So there are some cards up here that have a word or a phrase on it, and I'm going to ask you to just play with it, to just trust that you're calling forth some message for yourself today. Come up, take time, feel which card is speaking to you, and just take it. And what you see on that card may hit you immediately, and you'll say, yes, I know what this is talking about. You may pick it up and you may say, what the heck? I don't know what this is about. Play with it. Just let yourself play. See if there's some inner wisdom coming forward in this fashion. So, Jason, when you're ready, if you could just put that music on, and you're invited to come forward and pick a card. The card is yours to take with you if you like, and just reflect on it. And friends at home, I know that you're not in this space to actually pick a card for yourself, but if you would like one to be selected for you, I will pick one with you for you and send it to you. So put your name, and if we don't have your address, make sure you put your address in the chat, and I will think about you and pick one and send it to you. And just play with this. Like I said, some of you may have picked one up and it hit the button right now. Others of you may be shaking your head and thinking, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Others of you might not have liked what you picked up the first time and you went back for a second dose. That's okay. So just play with it. And as you go on for the rest of today, the rest of your week, just take time and sink into yourself. See what your inner wisdom is telling you, whatever that means to you. But pay attention to your body. When are you feeling tight and tense? What's that about? When are you feeling squirmy? When are you feeling spacious? And just pay attention.